Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Today we are to go through the last lesson of Unit 3. As you have seen in the previous units, after two lessons, the compilers have set a poem in the previous units also. Here again, they have followed the same pattern. So, today's poem has a title, If, a very small title, If. And the poet is Rudyard Kipling. Now this poem also has a message, very clear message for you, for all of us. And such poems are called didactic poems. Those which have some moral lesson, some piece of advice are called didactic poems. So it's one of the didactic poems. The poem is written in the form of stanzas. There are 4 stanzas in all. And many of the lines of the poem start with the title word, if. Now, the word if actually stands for some condition. When we use if, we make a conditional sentence. And here the writer has made many lines with this word. So those lines are conditional lines. So let's start with the poem, the first stanza. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. So he starts with these 2 lines. He addresses us, the readers. If you can keep your head, keeping one's head, to keep one's head is an idiom that means not to lose your temper, to keep your senses. So if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs. Now there may be a situation in which many people around you are losing their temper. They are becoming angry, aggressive. But in that situation, if you are able to keep your head, if you are able to keep yourself cool, if you are not losing your temper, and even when people are blaming you, they are accusing you of some wrong that has happened, that has fallen on them, but you are not responsible for that. Even then, you are able to keep your head. Then he moves to another condition. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. Now what the poet wants to say is that you must have trust in yourself. You must have confidence in yourself. Though people around you may not be so much sure of you, they may doubt your talents, they may doubt your sincerity, they may doubt whether you may be able to perform some task or not. But you have trust in yourself, you have confidence in yourself, However, even then, you must make allowance. To make allowance is another idiom which means allow for. And allow for means to keep in view, to consider, but make allowance for their doubting too. But though you may be very confident, you may have a lot of trust in yourself, yet you must consider their doubt too. You must have, you must give their doubt also some room. If you can wait and not be tired of waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. So again, he starts with if. He says, well, when we do something, when we perform some task, we have to wait. And if you are able to wait, and sometimes that waiting may be quite long, and people get tired of waiting, but you are not such a person. You can wait and wait and wait for a very long time, and you don't get tired. Or when there is a situation in which a lot of lies are being told about you, people are lying about you, there are all types of charges against you, but even then you don't deal in lies. You don't start lying about others. Deal in is a phrasal word that is usually used for doing some business. Dealing. We deal in sugar, we deal in rice. So doing business in sugar or rice, for example. But here it means you don't deal in lies. You don't try to use lies. You don't do business in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And similarly, if people start hating you, people are not pleased with you, people don't love you, people dislike you, even then you don't give hatred grow in yourself. If you don't nurture any ill will for others, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wide. And having done all that, having faced all these drastic conditions, you keep yourself humble. You don't try to be proud. You don't try to look wiser than others or better than others. Rather, you keep your modesty, you keep your humbleness. So, in this first stanza, the writer has put just some conditions for you how to behave, how to conduct in life. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, then he says, well, dreaming is a very good thing, because when we dream, we are basically planning for future. If you can dream, if you have dreams, and not make dream your master, but then be careful. Sometimes dreams may take hold of you. Dreams may become very troublesome for you. So don't let dreams become your masters. Yes, you must have dreams, but those dreams must be realized by you. You must work for the realization of those dreams. But sometimes there are circumstances, there are situations in which those dreams can't be materialized. Even then, you must not lose hope. If you can think and not make thoughts your aim, and thinking is also, again, a very important and positive activity. Yes, if you are able to think, if you have got a thinking mind, and not make thoughts your aim, but only thinking shouldn't be your aim. If you make your goal or aim just thinking, it means that you are not ready to take some practical steps. You don't want to do something practically. That's a negative attitude. So he says, well, thinking is good, but don't make thinking your aim. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. Now, this point is very important, the most important point that he is discussing here. He says, well, sometimes you succeed, you are victorious, triumph is victory, success, and disaster is failure. Disaster is destruction, failure. So if, and here you can see that both triumph and disaster have been written with a capital letter. Triumph, T is capital, and disaster, D is capital. So when these abstract nouns, triumph and disaster, both are abstract nouns. When these abstract nouns are used with capital letter, it means that the poet is using personification. And perhaps I told you earlier also that personification is attributing, giving human qualities to non-living things or ideas and concepts. So if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those both impostors just the same. And this word impostors is very important that the poet is using here. He says that both triumph and disaster are just impostors. Impostors are those who pretend, those who feign, F-E-I-G-N, feign, cheats. Impostors are cheats, fraudulent people, those who cheat others. Impostors have double personality. They are disguised people, disguised imposters. Imposters are pretenders, those who pretend. So actually he wants to say that triumph and disaster have no reality. They just pose to be triumph or disaster. Otherwise, for you, your efforts, your struggle must be the aim. Whether you succeed or not is not so important. Importance is there only for your struggle, your effort. So that's why he calls both triumph and disaster impostors, that they just pose to be victory or failure, otherwise they have no reality. And if you have the courage, if you have the willpower to meet and treat these two impostors in the same way, if you can bear to hear the truth you have spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, and then if you have the tolerance, if you can bear, if you can tolerate to hear the truth you have spoken, you have said something true, and your truth has been taken up by knaves. Knaves are rogues, wicked people. So those wicked people, those rascals, knaves, rascals, have twisted it. They have given it a bend. They have bent it. They have given it a new angle that was not intended by you. And actually, those rascals and wicked people are using your words to trap others, to snare the foolish people, simple-minded people. So if you have the courage and tolerance to face this situation also, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up and with worn out tools. Or you see that you devoted your whole life to build up something, to make something, but that thing has been broken, that thing has been destroyed, but you don't mind it, you don't become discouraged, you don't lose hope, rather you stoop, you bend, you bow, stoop means bow or bend, and build them up with worn out tools, and then you start building them again, you build them afresh, anew. Even though your tools, your instruments, your equipment has also become worn out, it has also lost its previous these tools have also lost their previous previous goodness, previous sharpness. They are worn out. They are worn out. They are in bad condition now. They are not. They are not in proper condition. So with those improper tools, with those bad tools, you start building the thing again. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and if you can make one heap of all your winnings. Now, he says, well, sometimes you may win many things. Winning may come to you in many terms. If you can make one heap of all your winning. So whatever you have won, you put it one upon the other, and there is a heap. There is a great volume of that winning, and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss. And you have the courage to put all your winnings again to some bet. You bet your winning in some game. Pitch and toss is a game, the name of a game. So if you have the courage to put your winnings as bet on that game and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, and then you lose, you won and won and won, and whatever you won, you put it again for the game, and then you lost. But you don't complain, you don't say anything about your loss, you never breathe a word, never say a word, you don't complain about your loss, and start again at your beginning. And then you start again without any winning. Now you are starting from the scratch, from the beginning again. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and if you are devoted, dedicated to your work, to your task, and though your heart and nerve and sinew is muscle, sinew is your muscles. So if you put your heart, you put your nerves and your muscles in some work to serve your turn long after they are gone, when your turn comes, you are ready to face the challenge. Though your heart, nerve and sinew, your muscles might have lost their strength, their energy, even then you have you have dedication, and with all your weaknesses, you are able to take the challenge when your turn comes. And so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. And though you might have lost all your strength, all your power, all your faculties, when there is nothing in you, when a man has lost all his powers, but he holds on, he sticks to his guns, he keeps to his ground, except the will. And here you must be reminded of the last two lessons, where sticking to the post, not leaving the post was the main theme. So here this poem is again on that theme. Here the poet tells you that even when you have lost everything, even your own physical and mental powers, spiritual powers, whatever powers you have lost all that, except the will. However, you still have your will, you still have your resolution, which says to them, hold on. And only this willpower convinces your nerves, your heart, your muscles to hold on, to stick to their work. So if you are in this situation, if you are in this state, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with king nor lose the common touch. Well, if you are able to talk with crowds, if you have got the power of oration, the power of speech, and you can convince others, you can keep crowd following you and keep your virtue. Even then, when crowds are following you, when many people like you, many people support you, even then you keep your virtue, you keep your goodness, you don't lose your virtue, your holiness, your goodness stays with you. You don't become corrupt or walk with king, or you have very close relations with high authorities, with kings, with rulers, nor lose the common touch. Even then, you remain a common person. You don't lose your common touch. You don't become haughty and proud. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, and if you are so strong that your foes are enemies, your opponents, so you are not hurt even by your enemies or your loving friends. Sometimes even the words of our very close friends, our bosom friends, may hurt us. But if we are so strong that not only the words of our enemies, but also the words of our close friends are unable to hurt us. If all men count with you, but none too much. If you give importance to every person, every individual, count means to be important. If all men are important to you, but none too much, but you have trust in yourself, none of them is extraordinarily important for you. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, and if there is a situation in which you become angry, you become offended, feeling of revenge wells up in you, starts making way into your heart, and you are ready to take revenge. You are taking to take on someone. You are ready to express your anger against someone. But at that time, with 60 seconds worth of distance, you keep yourself cool, and to keep yourself cool, you just make a run. you go away from there, you run for 1 minute only to control your anger, to control your negative feelings. Yours is the earth and everything that's in it. So if you are able to fulfill all these conditions that the poet has said there, he now comes to the conclusion of the poem, and he says that if you have all these qualities, you are the person who can own this earth. You can be the inheritors of the earth. Yours is the earth. You can own. You are the owner of the earth. You are the master of the earth and everything that's in it. And everything in this earth is yours. And which is more, you will be a man, my son. And the most important thing is that all these conditions, all these qualities will prove that you are really a human being. You are really the crown of creation. You are really the salt of the earth. You are really a man. You have got all the positive qualities in you, and that's why you may be rightly called a man. So that's our poem. I hope you enjoyed this poem. This poem has a lesson for all of us. We must also try to develop as many of these good virtues and qualities as possible. Thank you very much.